What's going on, YouTube? So if the Mazda CX-5 isn't rugged enough for you, there has been a new addition to the Mazda lineup, this CX-50. But looks may be deceiving because this CX-50 not only is off-road capable, it's also incredibly luxurious. But is it worth a look in this crowded SUV segment? Let's go ahead and find out. Now there are some updates to the Mazda CX-50 for 2024, but none of which are under the hood. You're still going to have two engine options with this product, a standard 2.5 liter four-cylinder. You also have what we have today, which is the more desirable choice, the 2.5 liter turbo four-cylinder. This makes 256 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque, which does indeed make this one of the most powerful options in the entire segment. Now, as far as the transmission, you're looking at a 6-speed automatic on all models. All-wheel drive is standard equipment on the CX-50, and as far as your fuel economy, you're sitting at 25 miles a gallon combined. Now, we will be taking this CX-50 out on the road to do things such as our signature sound level reading, as well as discuss driving dynamics. But first, let's check out the exterior and hop into some of those changes. Now, there are quite a few changes for this 2024 Mazda CX-50, but probably the biggest change this year is that we have seen the elimination of some of your trim levels. So your base S model is now eliminated for 2024. They're also getting rid of the preferred plus trim level. So that does mean that you have some affordable options on the CX-50, but it's going to be less so than your 2023 lineup. But let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to see in terms of the overall front design, because this is not going to change for 2024. So with the CX-50, you're going to have a more rugged, squared off look than you would see on other Mazda products, including the Mazda CX-5. They're all going to be finished in this nice black color, and it does have a really cool kind of three-dimensional look to it. Additionally, since we have the Meridian edition on today's example, we have specialized hood graphics up here on the hood. And this is going to be like the more off-road focused trim level of the CX-50, and it's built off of the turbo trim level. Now, as far as the headlights are concerned, we do have premium LED headlights, and that's actually going to be standard on every single CX-50 model. Now, the only caveat to that is you're going to get adaptive abilities if you go for a turbo or premium plus trim level. Now, dropping down below that, we do have LED turn signal indicators. It has a really nice fading in and out design. And as far as this lower area, it's going to all be finished in a rugged matte black with some silver garnishings down here. Now, walking to the rear design of this CX-50, you're going to see a very similar thing as what we saw in the front. It's going to have that tough and masculine look, way more so than the Mazda CX-5. Part of the reason for that is because we have these rear fender flares off to the side, as well as all this rugged matte black trim. And we do also have more squared off taillights. But let's go ahead and see if all the elements are LED in this taillight design. So we have an LED brake light, we have an LED reverse light, and we do also have an LED amber turn signal indicator that has that nice fading in and out animation. Really love this taillight design. This is going to be standard on the higher end CX-50 models, but it looks as good as any luxury car ever would. Now, dropping down to this lower area, we do have a nice silver finish. Additionally, we're going to have standard exhaust pipes on every single CX-50. If you choose a turbo model, you're going to have bigger tips, and we all know bigger is better, right? As far as our tow rating, 2,000 pounds if you go for the standard 2.5 model, 3,500 pounds if you go for a turbo, which is pretty much class leading. Now let's talk your wheel options for this 2024 Mazda CX-50. Now, what you're seeing on this particular model is the Meridian Edition specific wheel. This is an 18-inch contrast alloy. We also have all-terrain tread wrapped around it. That's going to be, of course, specific to this trim level. Now, you do have standard 17-inch alloy wheels on your basic trim levels, and if you go for a premium plus trim level or any turbo, you're going to get an exclusive 20-inch alloy wheel that has a really cool contrast finish. Now, additionally, we do have these rugged matte moldings going all over your wheel arches that are kind of squared off. It looks really good, especially when you pick this zircon sand paint color. Now, as far as your mirrors are concerned, we are going to have standard blind spot monitoring. If you go for a preferred trim level or above, that will add heating. Additionally, you can get power folding as well as auto dimming on the driver's side, available on the higher end models. Now, in terms of the side design of this CX-50, we're coming in at an overall length of 185.8 inches, which actually is about 5 inches longer than the Mazda CX-5, and it's a pretty competitive length for this segment of vehicle. Now, as far as other things, it would be hard to miss what we have installed on this particular model. We have the crossbars as well as the roof rack. So this is going to be very useful for any of your off-road adventures, or if your kid's misbehaving, I think you could strap them up there and they'd be just fine. Now, as far as your safety systems are concerned for the CX-50, Mazda is including all 4 of your active safety features as standard equipment on every single model. Now, the only caveat to that is if you go for a top-end Premium Plus Turbo model, that will additionally include rear auto braking. But guys, that wraps up the exterior design of the CX-50, and if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars. But let's check out some of those 2024 changes on the inside. Now, this is your signature Mazda key fob. This has not changed this year. It's going to be a nice design, squared off. You have your buttons here on the side to lock and unlock it. We do actually have standard smart entry for 2024 because that base trim level is now gone. So all of the models will have smart entry. So you just grab behind the door handle to unlock. And let's check out that cabin. Now, as you can see, we have a beautifully finished cabin here on this Meridian Edition, but let's go ahead and talk about all of the trim levels, material colors, and options. Now, for 2024, we are going to have standard leatherette seats on the CX-50 because that base model has now been discontinued, so all of them are going to have the leatherette. Additionally, you can get a real leather seat option. Now, if you choose the leatherette, you're going to have a finish of black only. However, if you choose one of the turbo models, you're going to have the option of this beautiful terracotta leather or a black. Now, as far as the seat adjustments are concerned, we're going to have an 8-way power adjustment for preferred trim levels and above. And additionally, you will also have 2-person memory seating if you choose a premium trim level or above. And getting inside here, it's nice and easy, and you do have a really nice solid sounding door. But let's go ahead and talk about other cabin materials with this CX-50 because that's one of the best parts about this vehicle. Now, over here on the door trim, we do have a leatherette patch going all through here. We have that cross stitching, which I think looks really premium. Additionally, we have some terracotta color schemes through here. We also have 4 fully automatic windows. As you can see, I can't roll them down right now because the windows are tinted. Above that, we have a padded plastic going through all of the upper dash as well as the upper door trim. We have some more of that leatherette with the cross-stitching detail. And then as far as our center tunnel, this is going to be a hard touch, which is something that is different from the CX-5. The CX-5 would actually have a leatherette through here. The CX-50 is not going to get that. Now, we do have standard push-button start on every single CX-50 this year, so just put your foot on the brake, push the button to start. And brace yourself for the world's longest seat belt chime because it goes on and on and on. And now let's move into a first-person perspective so we can check out all the interior details. Now, here's your gauge cluster design. You do have a standard 7-inch digital display here in the middle, and this is standard on every single CX-50. As you can see, you have your traditional gauge here on the left and right side, but you do have that customizable look here in the middle with the 7-inch display. Additionally, if you choose a Turbo Premium or above, that will throw in a head-up display, but because this Meridian Edition is based on just the traditional turbo trim, we are missing that. Now, coming back to the steering wheel, we do have a really nice leather-wrapped design. I love the way this feels in the hand, signature Mazda look. Additionally, we do have some nice silver buttons on the side. We have standard rain-sensing wipers on every single model, and if you want heating, that is on the Turbo Premium trim level and above, and all of them are going to be manual tilt and telescoping. And now let's go ahead and talk about the interior storage for the CX-50, because this is a family vehicle after all. So as far as your center console is concerned, we have a German-esque design here where it opens in two different parts. And looking inside of here, you have a pretty good amount of space inside. You also have USB ports as well. And of course, this is a Car Confections review after all, so we did bring our coupons because you got to save money for the whole family, so maybe you can afford to go on vacation or something like that. And as you can see, they do fit in there perfectly fine. Now moving up from that, we do have our two cup holders. Additionally, we have a little storage cubby right here with a 12-volt power outlet. And I do want to talk about this because this is a 2024 change area. This right here is your wireless phone charging pad, and it previously used to be on only the fully loaded model. Mazda has now dropped that down to be standard on premium trim levels and above, so that's certainly a big benefit that we see this year. Now, moving on up from that, we have our electronic parking brake hold function. This is your control knob to control the infotainment screen, which I will talk about that in just a little bit. And beside that is your volume knob. And now let's talk about the audio system. So standard is an 8-speaker system, which is what we have on this model today. You can also get an upgraded 12-speaker Bose Centerpoint system, and that's going to be on premium trim levels and above. So premium, premium plus, and that goes for both the 2.5 as well as the turbo models. So that does indeed skip this Meridian edition. So sound quality of this standard 8-speaker system is pretty acceptable. I don't really have a lot of issues with it, although I will say for a vehicle of this price tag, I do think that it should have the upgraded Bose system, which is a little bit better. But let's go ahead and take a look at our shifter. Now, unlike a lot of modern rivals, we do have a traditional shifter for the CX-50. So just pull back for drive. You can bump to the left to shift manually. You do also have paddle shifters if you choose a turbo model. Then going into reverse, we just have the traditional backup camera. We do not have active trajectory, so do keep that in mind. And if you go for a fully loaded Turbo Premium Plus, that's where you'll get the 360-degree ability. And moving up the dashboard here, you will notice that we do have a dual-zone automatic climate control system. That is actually going to be standard equipment for 2024 on every single CX-50, since we did delete that base trim level this year. So climate controls can just be adjusted real simply with the manual knobs. I like that it is a physical system. A lot of cars are putting in the infotainment nowadays, and I do like the physical controls. Now, you will also notice that we do have 3-stage heated seats on this model. That's going to be included on preferred trim levels and above. And additionally, you can get ventilated seats, and that's going to be included on the 2.5 Premium Plus model or the Turbo Premium and above. Now, coming up to the screen, we're also going to see kind of the same thing play out. We used to have an 8.8-inch screen available, but since we got rid of that base trim level, that does mean that we now have a 10.25-inch display on every single CX-50 for 2024. Now, as you can see, we are running wireless Apple CarPlay. You do also have wireless Android Auto, and that's standard on all of the models, which is certainly very nice. And another thing that I want to point out is that this is actually a touchscreen. So thank goodness Mazda has included the touch ability for the wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto system. But do keep in mind, you do have to use this control knob if you're actually in the Mazda infotainment system. So when you go to touch things in the Mazda, it's not going to do it, so you do have to use this control knob, which I think is a little bit silly, but you know, Mazda does certain things like that every single year. And then if you go into the navigation system, we do not have an integrated navigation system on this Meridian edition. And moving on from that, we do have an auto-dimming interior mirror with 3 HomeLink garage door openers built into the bottom of it. And more importantly, let's check this out. We do have a panoramic moonroof on the CX-50. And that's included on a Preferred Plus trim level of the CX-50 and above. Now, this was actually the first ever panoramic moonroof offered on a Mazda, so that does indeed mean that the CX-5 cannot get a panoramic option. So if that matters a lot to you, you might want to go for the CX-50. The front panel does open up as well, although it's not going to be a fully opening front panel. It's about halfway there. Now, this CX-50 is a family vehicle after all, so let's go ahead and start talking about those practical elements in addition to, of course, the off-road bits that we already discussed. Now, one of those elements is this door. I really want to point this out because it opens at pretty much a 90-degree angle, which is very useful for those of you who have to load in car seats or whatnot. It's going to be something that you certainly appreciate as you live with this vehicle. Now, as far as the space is concerned, the legroom is going to be pretty impressive as well. 39.8 inches of legroom, 38.6 inches of headroom. So very good figures. That's pretty much identical to what you're going to get in the Mazda CX-5. And of course, I did bring my bendy ruler here to measure from the seat back to my knees. We're looking at about 8 inches. I'm 5'9" for reference, and the seat is actually adjusted to my driving position. Additionally, I do have plenty of room for my feet to slide up underneath the seat, so I'm going to be very comfortable in the CX-50's rear area, but I do want to mention that the rear seats do not recline, so this is just going to be the only position that you have it in. Now, here in the center, we do have standard vents on every single CX-50, which is certainly nice. We also have 2 USB ports. Now, heated rear seats are available, but that's going to be only on the Turbo Premium Plus trim level, so you do have to get that top model to have that. Additionally, we do have 2 cup holders, a nice center armrest. And let's turn to the door trim. This is going to be something I'm a little bit disappointed by. I like that it opens 90 degrees, but this entire top part is made of a hard touch plastic. It's harder than my calculus exams back in high school, and you know, those boys were hard. Now, dropping down, we do have a leather padding through the middle, leather padding where our arm is going to rest, so I do like that. Additionally, we have a ton of bottle storage. Now, walking up to the tailgate, we do have a power tailgate that's included on preferred trim levels and above. Do be aware, though, that hands-free function is not offered on the CX-50 at all. Now, as far as the cargo space is concerned back here, we're going to have a good amount of it, although it's not exactly class leading. We're looking at 31.4 cubic feet, excuse me, of cargo capacity behind the second row seats. And if we reach up and fold those seats down, we're looking at a maximum of about 56 cubic feet of cargo capacity. That is going to be less than the Mazda CX-5. It's also going to be less than a lot of the main rivals like Honda CR-V, as well as Toyota RAV4. So do keep that in mind. If you're choosing the CX-50, you're going to sacrifice a little bit when it comes to the cargo capacity. Now, if we lift up the cargo floor, we have a spot for what would be a spare tire. I'm not exactly sure what happened to this model spare tire, or if they have eliminated that for the Meridian edition, but there is a spot for it. Additionally, we do have the nice handles to fold down the seat backs in the cargo area, and I did bring my measuring tape here. So I'm going to measure from the front seat back all the way to the rear of the cargo area, and we're looking at about 76 inches of, actually more about 75 inches of space, which is a good amount. That does mean the average refrigerator is 69 inches long, and I think this car is actually tall enough that you might be able to fit that in the CX-50, which is certainly a good figure, that's for sure. Additionally, we do have some LED lighting. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2024 Mazda CX-50. Now, there are some changes in this area for 2024 that I can't wait to show you, but we will be talking about a lot of different things in this test drive before we get there, including getting our sound level reading. Thanks, Josh. And by the way, this is Josh. He's been helping us out with a lot of different things. If you don't know him on the channel, give him a warm welcome in the comments down below. He's been helping me film today and has been very, very helpful. So thanks, Josh, for being here. But let's go ahead and start with a hard acceleration. Wow. Nice. Oh my. The Mazda turbos never get old. So as you can tell, this Meridian edition does have the turbo engine under the hood. I said that at the beginning as well. And this is just a very impressive motor, especially for this segment of vehicle. It's a 2.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder, 256 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque. So really healthy numbers there. Do keep in mind that is with premium fuel though, so if you use regular fuel, I think the horsepower drops down to 227 horsepower, but nevertheless, this is a very powerful motor. It's something that you're going to enjoy and love the entire length of your ownership of this vehicle. Now, the Meridian Edition is based on the turbo. If you didn't hear me say that at the beginning of the video, the turbo is one rung below this. This adds to the turbo trim level. They're all also the premium as well as the premium plus turbo trim level. So that's how you get this engine. Now, the standard setup is just a regular 2.5 liter non-turbo i4, and Josh is going to help me out with those power figures.
Yes, that turboless model will come in at 187 horsepower, 186 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah, and that's going to represent a pretty much average power figure for the segment, but this is certainly a big upgrade. So I would recommend, if you care a lot about driving fast or driving dynamics in general, I would recommend getting a turbo model. That's one of the unique things about the CX-50 is that it does have that turbo offerings. A lot in the segment don't offer any upgraded powertrain at all.
While we're sitting here at the light, let's go ahead and run through the fuel economies for the CX-50. There's only going to be two, one for each engine, since you do have standard all-wheel drive on every model. For the standard turboless model, you're going to have 24, 30, 27 combined. And for the turbo we are in today, it's going to be 23, 29, 25 mpg combined. So not a bad reduction for going for that upgraded turbo model. I think it's worth it for the extra power and fun you get with the amazing Mazda driving dynamics.
Yeah, and if you're paying attention there, the vehicle was powered off on auto start stop, and it did go ahead and turn back on. It's a decent auto start stop system. It's definitely going to be something that you feel, but it's not like overly sensitive or anything, so I think you're not going to notice it too much, but do be aware that if you don't like auto start stop systems, you will probably feel when this one comes off and on. And I do want to mention there's a button here on the left side. If you want to defeat the auto start stop, you can do that. But just accelerating here, I want you to notice the transmission that we have for the CX-50. It's going to be a 6-speed automatic, regardless of what engine you choose, which it's a good automatic transmission. Is it down a few gears from a lot of modern rivals? Yes, most modern cars are at 8 or 10-speed automatics, but I really don't mind it. We've said it in past Mazda reviews. This 6-speed automatic is a good mate to the 2.5 liter turbo, and that engine is just so torque rich that you really don't need to shift gears all that often. So certainly you're not gonna be really wanting for power, and I think it does a good job. If you put your foot down, it takes a second to shift, but overall it does a pretty good job. And like Josh mentioned, all-wheel drive is standard on every single version of the CX-50. Gotta love it. All right, now that we're going 55 miles an hour, I will go ahead and have Josh get our sound level reading.
All right, we're going to settle at 61.8 decibels for this CX-50 Meridian Edition. And if I go to the Car Confections website, where we now have all of our sound level readings listed out for you all to see and organize and play with however you so choose, I can find out that in its segment, the CX-50 Meridian Edition is actually going to be the loudest in the segment. And I think there's a lot of reason to figure out why. First of all, this is sitting on all-terrain tires, and secondly, we do have the Apex package, which equips on the massive roof rails and roof rack that you saw on the side, and it's really bringing in a lot of noise to the cabin. It's almost like a constant whistle when you get around 55 miles an hour, and it's really not the best sound in the world. Yeah, I will say that when you choose this Meridian Edition with those off-roady bits and stuff on the roof, you're going to pay the price when it comes to sound level reading. We drove a 2.5 Premium Plus Turbo last year back home in Kentucky. It tested a lot quieter, so do keep that in mind. If you don't mind the extra noise, you can get this, but if you are going to be bothered by that, I would stray away from getting the roof rails, that's for sure, or roof rack. All right, now I went ahead and put the CX-50 into sport mode. As we go around this corner here, there's not a lot of corners on this test drive loop here in the city, but
certainly the handling and just overall steering feel for the CX-50 is a bright spot. It always has been, pretty much is in every single Mazda product, and that's going to continue for 2024. Now, Mazda actually did change something when it comes to this. They have slightly retuned the steering feel. To be honest with you guys, I don't feel a massive difference, but it is maybe slightly better than the 2023 that we tested out in California last year, as well as had back home. But I have no complaints as compared to all the competition. This is one of the best options, period. And taking off here, I do also want to talk about another 2024 change, and that would be with your ride quality for the CX-50. Now, Mazda says that they've retuned the suspension and damping just a little bit for 2024. Once again, with this, I'm not noticing a huge difference from what we had in 2023, as you would expect, but there is just a level of overall refinement to the CX-50 that I certainly can appreciate. I think they've made it slightly better for 2024, and this really does feel like a luxury vehicle when it comes to your ride quality. Everything in this cabin fits together well. There's no rattles or anything like that, and when you hit a bump, the intrusion is very minimal. So this is one of the most premium ride qualities that you can get in the segment. I think they've made that even better for 2024. And we're going to call that overall premium feel today's slam dunk. Now, that's our favorite element about the car. Of any car we review on this channel, we like to do the slam dunk, and I think that's really just where this product shines the most. When you compare this to a RAV4, it just feels so much more premium and buttoned down than that vehicle does. And Josh, do you want to get us the airball?
Yeah, so that airball today is going to kind of be this Meridian trim itself. For the price that you're paying for this, which you will see very soon, you're missing out on some of those luxury goodies that you could be getting on a more premium turbo trim.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that kind of strikes me the most is that we don't have vented seats on this. We also don't have the head-up display or the audio system because it's based on the turbo trim level. But like Josh said, we're going to talk about the pricing in just a second. It really doesn't cost any less than those trim levels.
And to finish things off with the warranty, you have a basic warranty of 3 year, 36,000 miles, powertrain of 5 year, 60,000 miles, and Mazda currently does not provide any complimentary maintenance.
And lastly, let's talk price for this 2024 CX-50. Now, one of the things that also did change for 2024 was the price, and not in a way that favors you. It does go up about $2,000 to $4,000 depending on what trim level you select this year. Do keep in mind the base price has also risen quite a bit because we got rid of that base trim level CX-50. So now we're starting at $30,300 for the select trim. Do keep in mind you have standard all-wheel drive with that model. There's a lot of other trim levels that you can see on the screen right now. Ending in the Turbo Premium Plus, that's $43,300. This one with the Meridian Edition, we're sitting a little bit less than that. We're sitting at about $40,800 as a starting point, and then once we add in some of the options, we're sitting at about $43,000 as tested today. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of the 2024 Mazda CX-50 Meridian Edition. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you make all of this possible by allowing us to test out some of the newest cars on the market and inform you of their changes model year to model year. So please hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. If you're already a loyal fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support because you do make this all possible, and we thank you for being a part of our Car Confections family. Also, if you haven't had the chance to check out our Car Confections website, carconfections.com, please do that. Follow us on Instagram as well as TikTok, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.